Hey everyone, welcome back to another week of RJK English. We're getting into chapter 2 of Hermann Hesse, his Siddhartha. So, originally written in German, as we have talked about, this is a translation from the German, and he, in turn, is writing about a culture that is not his own. This is the RJK English site. You can find us on RJK English on Facebook. Make sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube. It really helps me out, and it helps me to create these videos. But go here to RJK English as well and post questions, and let's talk about things. Let's discuss anything you have questions on from this lesson or anything else. I post a lot of other articles too to try to get you interested. I post about blues music, so we get into a little bit about African American dialect in the U.S., which I'm not an expert on, but obviously I'm from this country and I've studied it some. They are my fellow citizens and have a huge influence on the U.S. and on the world. I post about a lot of things. So anyways, check that out. All right, chapter 2, with the Samanas. Remember, this is the shramanas. They are renunciants. Up to this point, Siddhartha, we have learned that he is not the same as the Buddha. He is truly different, and because he sees things differently than the Buddha did. So he's Hesse's own version of this searcher for the truth, and we're learning more about him. He was not happy in his home. Even though he's great from the caste of Brahmins, he's the best of, kind of like, if you've read the Ramayana, Ram was the best of all, and Ram was even God. So, the best of, and yet he's not happy. So, with the shramanas, on the evening of that day, they overtook the shramanas and requested their company and allegiance. This is Siddhartha and Govinda, his close friend. They were accepted. Notice, they were accepted. So the action is coming to they, and they're being accepted by someone else. So this is a passive sentence. They were accepted. The action comes to the subject instead of the subject doing something. We see this a lot in Hindi. Mujhe jana hai, I have to go. To me, going comes. So that's passive sentence as well, but using oblique. So they were accepted. Siddhartha gave his clothes to a poor Brahman on the road and only retained his loincloth, only covering his private parts. Only retained his loincloth and an earth-colored, unstitched cloak. He only ate once a day and never cooked food. He fasted 14 days. He fasted 28 days. The flesh disappeared. Why did he say these two after another? He's giving you pictures, right? So he's writing in pictures. He fasted 14 days. Oh, I got that in my mind. He fasted 28 days. Oh, now it's another picture. Oh, now it's 28 days. He's still fasting. The flesh disappeared from his legs and cheeks. Did the flesh disappear? Did his skin come off? No. It means that he's losing muscle. He's losing muscle and fat. The flesh disappeared from his legs and cheeks. Strange dreams were reflected in his enlarged eyes. The nails grew long on his thin fingers, and a dry, bristly beard appeared on his chin. His glance, his look, became icy when he encountered women. Why would that be? Why would his glance become icy? Because it would be seen as he was being tempted by them, right? We often see this in society. I'll put my picture over here so you can see me. We often see this in society and in a lot of religions. Women to men are seen as temptations instead of people in themselves. This is problematic, but we can see here that he's trying to deny himself. And he, as a man, according to this, he is attracted to women. And when he sees them, he is thinking sexually. So his glance turns icy because he doesn't want to be tempted. His lips curled with contempt when he passed through a town of well-dressed people. Contempt means you really are disgusted by people, or you think you're above them, right? Ugh, those people that want to be well-dressed. I'm not well-dressed, and I'm looking for truth. They are, people that go after terrible things. So he's becoming like the shramanas. We heard him describe the shramanas when they came into his town. He is becoming like them now. He saw businessmen trading, princes going to the hunt. They're hunting animals. Mourners weeping over their dead. Prostitutes offering themselves. Doctors attending the sick. Priests deciding the day for sowing. Lovers making love. Mothers soothing their children. What is he describing here? He's describing people in society. People that are in relationship with each other. How's that different from him? As a shramana, he is now an individual. He is separate from them. He now sees things as an individual. He's no longer part of that. They are like aliens to him now. And what does he say? All were not worth a passing glance. Everything lied. It stank of lies. They were all illusions of sense, happiness, and beauty. All were doomed to decay. The world tasted bitter. Life was pain. I think some of us have been through this before. We get to our 20s or 30s or even sometimes in our teens, and suddenly we realize that the world is not what we thought it was, that the world involves pain, that people lied to each other, and the world looks awful to us. Maybe we even realize we die, and the world looks horrible. I have friends who are going through this. They're much younger than me, that are going through this right now. So in this, we see that Hessa is not only telling the story of the Buddha, but he is matching it to his audience, his modern audience, that has experienced this in some way themselves. This is always the way stories are. At any time, stories are molded to fit the current circumstance because we have to connect with it. That's why the Ramayana, which is from India and written, 2,000, 3,000, I guess 3,000 years ago, maybe a little bit less, I don't know, maybe more, has gone throughout Southeast Asia, and where it goes, it's told a little bit differently because we have to connect with these things. Therefore, the author always has to mold it to us. So, everything he sees stinks of lies. What is the lie? The lie, Satya, is Brahman. Truth is God. Even right now, even in Islam, you would say that. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, alhamdulillah. At some point it says that God is the truth. Other things are lies. But here, the world is actually an illusion. The world is an illusion. It's Maya. It's illusion, and he's trying to see through it to see Brahman, so he rejects the world. Everything's an illusion of sense, happiness and beauty, and all the people living in it are living lies. Okay, so he has I wouldn't say this is a very loving view, right? But this is what he's going through. Siddhartha had one single goal, to become empty of thirst, desire, dreams, pleasure, and sorrow, to let the self die. In the West, we do not think this way. We do not think of killing the self. We think of finding the self. In the East, in Eastern philosophy, especially in India, this is a constant thing of losing the self. No longer to be self, to experience the peace of an emptied heart, to experience pure thought. That was his goal. How can you experience when you're not a self? So this is the thing we have to wrestle with. He wants to not be a self, but if you're not a self, how can you feel? I don't know. We'll have to keep going through this. When all passions and desires were dead, when the last must awaken, the innermost being that is no longer self, the great secret. So it's a secret, how to be self but also experience. To not be the self, to not be the self and also experience. It's a mystery, right? Silently, Siddhartha stood in the fierce sun's rays, filled with pain and thirst, and stood until he no longer felt pain and thirst. Silently, he stood in the rain, water dripping from his hair, onto his freezing shoulders, onto his freezing hips and legs. The ascetic, the renunciant, the person that rejects the world and rejects himself and doesn't eat much, the ascetic, stood until his shoulders and legs no longer froze, till they were silent, they were still. He no longer even felt the pain. Silently, he crouched among the thorns that would prick him, right? Blood dripped from his smarting skin. Smarting means kind of in pain. Ulcers formed, and Siddhartha remained stiff, motionless, till no more blood flowed, till there was no more pricking, no more smarting. He's almost dying, right? Siddhartha sat upright and learned to save his breath. We know this from some monks that barely breathe. To manage with little breathing, to hold his breath. He learned while breathing in to quiet his heartbeat. Learned to lessen his heartbeats until there were few and hardly any more. So why is he experiencing this? He's trying to quiet the self. He's not getting input from outside much at all. He's not doing things. What does that do? It makes you look inside. He's going beyond the self. He's experiencing intense hunger and pain and going beyond it. Right? Even when someone is tortured, this is a problem with torture. And again, I only know this academically. At some point it stops being torture. At some point, a lot of torture is about fear of what's going to happen and the pain itself. But once you've experienced pain over and over, it's not a surprise anymore. And actually, that's the problem with torture, is people get accustomed to it, not like they like it, but they get accustomed to it. So that's what he's doing to the body. Why? Because he wants to see past the self. He wants to kill the self in order to see God. That's what the shramanas have taught him. Now the question is this true? Will he find God through this? Well, I'm going to stop here because this has gone pretty long. We had to, kind of get readjusted. Reintroduced to each other. So I'm going to stop here, and then we'll start on the next one from there. If you want to go right to the next video, you can. Make sure to like and subscribe. Talk to us on RJK English. I don't have many people contacting me there. Contact me there, and let's start talking. You can basically have me to yourself. All right? So I'll see you next time, and keep learning.